You're in the shower, and somehow you're mid-argument with your boss, or your ex, or someone who said something to you 3 years ago that you still haven't let go of. None of them are actually there. You're just standing in the shower alone having a full conversation in your head. If this sounds familiar, you're not losing it. This happens to most people, and there's an actual explanation for why your brain keeps doing this. Here's the strange part. None of these conversations are real, but your body reacts like they are. Your heart rate goes up during the imaginary argument. You feel real embarrassment during the imaginary failure, real relief during the imaginary apology. Your brain isn't fully separating imagined from actually happening. Psychologists have a name for this. Ethan Kross, a psychologist at the University of Michigan, calls it chatter, the inner voice that runs simulations of conversations and situations, often without you choosing to start it. Brain imaging shows this happens in something called the default mode network, a set of brain regions that activate when you're not focused on a task, like when you're in the shower or walking somewhere with nothing else to do. This network is the same system involved in memory, imagining the future, and understanding other people's perspectives. Basically, it's your brain's idle mode, and its idle mode is running simulations. These imagined conversations usually fall into one of two categories, and they work pretty differently. The first is the replay. Something already happened, and you didn't get the outcome you wanted, so your brain reruns it, except this time you say the perfect comeback. The replay is mostly about closure. You're not preparing for anything, you're just trying to mentally finish something that felt unfinished. The second is the rehearsal. Something hasn't happened yet, and your brain is preparing for it in advance, running through what you'll say and what they might say back. This one actually has a documented psychological use. It's the same mechanism athletes use when they visualize a race before running it. Mental rehearsal activates a lot of the same neural pathways as physically doing the thing, which is part of why it can genuinely help you prepare. So both of these, on their own, are normal and often useful. The problem isn't having these conversations. The problem is what happens when the rehearsal doesn't stop. Therapists call this pattern mental rehearsal, spiraling into avoidance, when you keep rehearsing a conversation so many times that you start feeling like you've basically already had it. And here's the part that feels backwards. The more you rehearse a conversation in your head, the more nervous you can become about having the real one. Because now there's a script in your head, and reality never follows the script. This is sometimes called avoidance in disguise. It feels like you're preparing, but a lot of the time you're actually just delaying the real conversation, while your brain convinces you you're being responsible by overthinking it first. The people most likely to fall into this avoidance loop tend to share a pattern. They care a lot about how they're perceived, and they tend to replay social moments long after they're over, analyzing tone, word choice, whether they came across the wrong way. It's not anxiety for no reason. It's an overactive prediction system, one constantly trying to prepare you for outcomes that, statistically, mostly never happen. Here's the trap, though. Eventually, the version in your head can start to feel safer than reality. In your head, you control both sides of the conversation. People respond exactly how you need them to. Real conversations don't work that way. People surprise you, interrupt you, react differently than expected, which is exactly why some people start avoiding the real version altogether. None of this means your imagination is broken. Mental simulation is one of the most useful tools your brain has. It helped humans plan, prepare, and survive long before any of us were overthinking text messages. The line isn't whether you imagine these conversations. Almost everyone does. The line is whether you eventually act in the real world, or just keep replaying the rehearsal instead of living the real version. So, if your brain keeps scripting conversations that haven't happened yet, you're not broken. You just have a brain that's running a normal habit a little too often. Just remember, however good the version in your head sounds, the one that actually matters is the one you have out loud.